So this joint right here, this goes out to all the alchemists out there that know how to make that be that, that make classroom, the boardroom, avoid the courtroom.
Yeah, it's a and people are like, oh wow. So what is the content? So then I began to talk about that a bit.
Yeah.
So you can see people were really, and that was impromptu. People like, what? Tell me more. Like, wait. Somebody asked me the next day when I went to school. So what exact? Yeah. So there's a group of, and they were our age, they older, 40s, 50s, grown folk. So that was the family oriented.
So then, how would you answer the question as to how we met? What would you say? I know the answer that I would give, but you had much to say. You said so. Say.
No, your start is right.
Well, I mean, that's the only reference that I had. That's when you said she asked the question yesterday. So that made me think someone asked the question recently.
Yeah, like it's
so then that was the question that got asked, and it is not a question of how we met. I don't believe because there's no answer to that because like as a normal thing, we didn't meet at a party, we didn't meet at the club. It was more like a reintroduction.
Yeah.
To a friendship.
Yeah.
Not even a friendship, an acquaintance. I was at your wedding. I was married to your frat brother at the time. You were just getting married. So it wasn't like the next time I saw you, you were getting a book from my house. And then the time after I saw you, you were coming to grieve your frat brother. That's the last time I saw you. And then the story and the journey began.
So let's hear about the journey.
So then it started. Rodney, you started.
Yeah. No, I'm just kidding. That was nice the way you just put that. Yeah, you named the wedding 2020 O Street, January 1993. But remember, I came back with Dume for Marvin's wedding from Namibia, where we were living at the time. And
yeah, but I wasn't really paying attention to you. I wasn't paying.
You were there.
I was there.
Yeah, so you were.
But
there.
I was sick at Marvin's wedding. Remember, I got all bucked up because I got all messed up because of that stuff with all the tomato he served. And Darwin actually went and bought me Benadryl and saved my life because I remember Yana was a little baby and we were staying with the Shavers and I was still nursing. So I was just dying because my throat was closing up, but my baby needed to eat, and it was just a whole lot. So I really wasn't focused on Mark.
And I was only there with Dume. We had come from Pittsburgh, was headed back to Namibia, and I was there with a what was he, 6-year-old, 8-year-old, and so I came for dinner and left. I didn't even really stay for none of the stuff. But then to your point, yeah. Borrowing in the book Eckhart Tolle's Power of Now. And that was significant because at that time I was in a space of turmoil in my own relationship, and I was seeking passages, inspiration. So Power of Now was one of them, and it helped me. And I seem to remember you like waving or
standing at the window.
Standing at the window. Yeah, because I was in and out, and I lived in Pittsburgh then, and so I used to come back to the brother. I never used to come by the house, and that was odd because I didn't realize how close it was to the office. Because I used to go, okay, meet me at the office or meet me on M Street. Because we used to be out like, yo, I'm here. The in-laws are up Colesville Road. I don't really like DC. I don't know why. I'm not really a DC person. I'm like, what?
Can you tell us why you don't like DC?
Oh, that was phase. Because I didn't really have part of it was a lot of I'm a New Yorker. So, DC wasn't really on my radar. And I went to school in Virginia, and all the Negroes from Virginia seemed like they were hovering to DC, or they were acting like they were from DC, but they were actually from Lorton, or they were actually from, somewhere in Maryland. But it was like, what's that DC? Who is DC? What is DC?
What part of New York?
Long Island. And so 11746. And so, so part of that was just getting, and then So I mean, June 2013. I'm I'm on my way out of my relationship. Like this is not working. 2013 was significant for both of us. I had early that year I got served papers for divorce in January. I started to say, let me look for some jobs in the world. I applied to a job in Toronto and applied to a job in Fairfax, Virginia. I was gonna move to Toronto if I got that job, but it didn't come through. Late hire. Mason was like, "Yeah, we'll take you." Moved to Mason. My boy was then at GW. So I was like, 2013. That's. But before I had to move out the house, and so June, I get this phone call. I'm headed from Pittsburgh, headed to Detroit to see one of my boos then, because I was still trying to figure out when am I gonna boo out, how am I rolling, I mean, and so yeah, I'm coming from eating a delicious cheeseburger, French fries, and my LB, my back door is like, "Pop, Randy passed."
I,
I didn't know you were gonna be so animated, dear.
I was like, "There's no way." I froze. I like really literally froze, and it just hit me so. So I was like, "Where am I going?" So I remember I was like, "Fuck, I gotta catch a flight, Pittsburgh to Baltimore to Detroit."
Never, he said, "I'm busy trying to support you, and I need support from you. Like, you give me up." So he said, "Where you going?" I was like, "I'm in the airport right now. I can't figure out which gate." I figured out my shit. Where's my? He said, "D21." Went to my shit. Said, "Yeah, dog, head that way." So I'm on the phone with him, like, "Yeah, can you headed all the way? You there? Are you there?" "Yeah, I'm here." "Okay, I'll talk to you later." So like stunned and shit. Then do my shit in Detroit. I'm actually in the car with we're being driven by one of the cats in Chicago from the Nation who had picked us up. And with the boo headed and get this phone call, and Deborah's on the phone. With Ike's on the phone, but then Deborah's nearby, and they're putting a program together. And uh boy, I'm sorry. Boy, please, not right now. Not right now. Not right now. So they're putting a program together, and I'm like, yeah, word. Oh, let me speak to her. That was like June 2013 is the first time on a phone that I spoke to Deborah, had really communicated with her, really directly at all, at that level, on a phone call in a car with my dude, my man from the Nation driving to back from the airport center. And all that's background only to say that I said yes to being there, and I was headed to DC because then I had the job in Mason that had got sealed, and I was moving my shit back and forth. In fact, when I got the initial phone call from Bruh, I was wondering why he hadn't returned my phone call, and they were in away. I was come to find out they were away that Father's Day right before at 100, and so all these sort of events sort of transpired in June of 2014. By the end of the year, by the end of the month, I was going to DC. I met her. I had a really, I had a really, it was that interaction we had in the house was significant. I remember for a couple of things. One, I came to pay respects to the bro. Secondly, one of my profiles called me and told me what to dress, and I didn't have a purple tie. Deborah goes, "I'm going out tomorrow with the girls. I'll get you a tie." I'm like, "You give me a purple tie for real?" Yeah, that's tough. So I was like, she got me a purple tie. I still wear them. It's one of my favorite ties. So then I saw her again at the funeral. And then brought the boys back to the house, some boys. But yeah, so about how we met. That's something. What am I missing? I know I'm missing something. There's a
You
lot.
missed my whole entire part.
Well,
Because I
come
guess
with it.
you can't tell. So
Yeah.
it's when we talk about new moons and moons rising or new moon rising. We started with divorce and death. So I was sitting at my desk one day at Lexus. Oddly enough, I love my car. um, and we had just returned home from conference. And our office manager called me and said, Miss Evans, Mr. Evans hasn't answered my phone calls all day. And at this point, it was almost 4 o'clock in the afternoon, and that was very odd because anybody that knew Randy knew that he was darting back to that office to make sure the time we got back, he was going back. And so that was just an odd thing that he hadn't gotten to the office. So at the same time, I told Brahim to go ahead and make the bank deposit, do the usual things that you do. In the middle of that, Aaliyah called me, our middle girl. She said, Mom, where's Dad? And I'm thinking, I'm not there. And everybody has cell phones. So why is everybody calling me, asking me about Dad? So she said, I see his car. So I'm like, okay, well, and she said, I hear your shower running. So I'm like, well, he's in the shower. So after a long interim of time, she knocked on the shower door. She called me back. She knocked on the shower door. He didn't answer. Called me back after she called 911. And I immediately got in my car and I was driving down 29. And at 4:17, I will never forget the most ominous feeling in the pit of my stomach because I knew it was something deadly wrong. He either had a heart attack. I didn't expect him to be dead. I just didn't expect that. So I pull up to my house and the entourage is there, the ambulance is there, the fire trucks are there, the police is there. So this young man, this young white officer, and I must say that because he was a young man and he came to my car. Are you Miss Evans? I am. So I get out of my car and go in my house. And he goes, can I get you some water? You want to sit down? I'm like, this is my house. I know where the water is and I know how to sit the fuck down if I want to. What is the deal?
What about Athena?
And Athena, my dog. Athena, my dog was just downstairs having a little nutty because they blocked her off from going upstairs. So she knew something was wrong. But so his words were exactly this. I'm sorry to tell you, Miss Evans, but Mr. Evans didn't make it. And I thought, well, I'm not sure what that even means. Didn't make what? A meeting? I don't know. What didn't he make? Because no way did he not make life. And lo and behold, he died in that shower at about 10:14 that morning, which means my water bill ran, just for the record, all day until they came and took him out of the shower, out of that door. They carved off my door. They carved off my door, took him out. Our baby was hiding in our closet. I had no idea she saw them take him out. And yeah, it was just that traumatic, but that story just came like that. And I took a shower in that shower. I never replaced that door. I never put another door in there. I sold that house just the way that was. I just couldn't put another door in it. Because he died standing up on the shower. He never fell for all those hours. He had a massive heart attack, but he never fell down. That's saying something. That's saying it was his time, but he didn't have to really, go out so hard. He just went away. And that
So
was
let me
it.
let me ask you,
Yes.
how did you and Rodney afterwards? You lost your frat brother, your husband. What is that? And how did you guys comfort each other?
Well, we had kids. We had kids.
But that wasn't my comfort. You weren't my.
Okay, yeah,
Rodney
right.
came
Yeah.
over. He helped
Yeah.
me. He cut my grass.
Yeah.
He walked my dog. He did things that he was considerate. And it's been a long time since even my husband of 25 years consideration. So that's how we started, just sitting around talking. Let's go have a bite. And then one day we decided that we would go out. No, of course I initiated the go out because he had a girlfriend. For the record, he had a girlfriend. Yeah, but at that point I was locked and loaded. Just for the record, yeah. So she wasn't gonna win that war. She might have thought she was, and she was a smidge younger, so she didn't have any idea who she was messing with in the game of things and in the scheme of things. Meanwhile, I haven't dated in 25 years, so I have no idea what I'm doing. But I know enough. We're not perfect in marriage, but or relationships, but we're not novice to the game either. So when we decided we wanted to date, that's what we did. We dated. And one day, and we dated, 4284 became our spot where we started to make magic with, yeah, yeah, that was sort of it. I mean, my car used to almost drive itself and turn itself on Roberts Road every day. And he used to not understand why I had to leave at a certain time because getting on that beltway, not get ready to travel that way until he started coming up and having to go back. When he started staying at 1745 in DC with me, which became interesting, dating him with my daughters in the house because he started sleeping in our sub base, in the basement base. Because on the day bed.
They did.
Yeah.
And the girls knew Rodney, right?
They knew him enough. Yeah.
Okay.
They knew him enough.
But I mean, they only knew me as the bros really because they really didn't see me much.
No, nobody saw him.
Yeah.
I mean, right.
Let me
Ayana would be the biggest one to know anything about him.
the name. Yeah. Let me pull back a few things to go forward. I mean, it when when um when she told me that after they came back, he had walked the dog, washed the car, and
Cut the grass.
cut the grass.
It was 90,000 degrees.
Nigga like me, just because I mean, nigga like me, I had to do those things. I felt like I mean, one time I walked, I didn't do them all at the same time like he did that day and then passed the fuck out. But like I had to walk those steps in some ways. So I walked the dog. Dog used to walk Athena and used not the same route, whatever fuck route they took. I took a route, and Athena, that's how I met the folks because I was bringing the dog back one time. And
Sunday morning, Sunday afternoon.
There were the folks coming out and they were looking at me walking the dog.
Coming from church and they looking at me.
I washed the car there. That's nothing. But I also cut that grass, and I see that that looked like a little piece of grass, but that was a
Oh no, the backyard was like a quarter. I mean, it was a big. I don't even know what. That's.
I can't. I'm still trying to
I don't know.
And I was in this space because for me, the divorce was a major turning point in my life. It was the most and the most growth. I mean, I had this set of, I began to read. You know, I was sharing the Talmud now. I was finding scripture. I was finding Gibran. Part of it was just that moon was ending, and it ended sort of awkwardly after 20 years. Like I literally got served at about my 20th, like the week before my 20th. And so one kid was going to ninth grade, you know, out of state. Another kid was going to university. You know, that high school needed to be, you know, that parent in some ways because our household wasn't the space to come back to at that time. You know, we might have heard that, but I remember very specifically when I was when I was in that moment when I thought I was in an abyss. I was sick. I saw a therapist, so forth and so on. And I started doing some other things, gardening, so forth, community garden, open the hood. I prayed for two things specifically at that moment, and I remember wailing to the Most High at the end and saying, "Lord, give me courage." And two things. One, I needed a wife who could understand my flaw, who wouldn't be afraid, wouldn't be embarrassed, fucking wouldn't. One. Two, also would serve the Most High, no doubt, would only put me next to them. I mean, like, I need to have that connection. And so, I mean, she described as me having some, but I needed to hear I felt like one of those characters. Like I needed to hear someone identify when I was dating, and I wasn't dating out there, but I just needed to hear. And so when Deborah said in December of 2013 that I will look after your flock, and I served them. I was like, who are you? I mean, I had already had a thing for it, but I was like, wow, you said the magic words. You said like the shit when you put, and so I was like, okay, I'm gonna lock this up real quick. You know what I mean? So we sat with our kids at Old Evans, our oldest.
We skipping a whole beat.
But I want to hear 4284. I'm on 4284.
Yeah, but you didn't let me finish my story. You keep talking about.
I was trying to catch up to where you were.
You didn't catch me up. I mean, please, because it seems like you have a lot to say about that.
I mean, it's just my notes. You tell.
No, you're taking too much notes, Dr. Hobson. Yeah, no.
No, I'm feeling in some places because I want to make sure because I had a moment, and so by the time 4284 came and when she was describing, I had no car. I'm biking to the I'm like a half mile from my office. I'm literally strolling through my office, like living on campus, like flowing, like cool. My kid was going through something at GW, and boo, used to roll in and be like, wow. I was like, wow, okay. And at that moment as well, we immediately began to what for also for me that I need is um initiative, ingenuity. I need ideas. And she brought immediately, let's create a flow. Like she literally called it, and we called it the flow. And so then we were like, oh, how are we gonna let's pull people together and in the community. And so we had these in this Jamaican restaurant right on George Avenue. We used to bring folk together. Our community piece was being built there, and sort of organically. Then we had papers for Discover Ubuntu. The pink pedal was still in the flow. There was conversations. We were figuring out how do we bring our worlds together. We still have 4 kids in the crib, nigga. We had 4 cribs in 4417, and by then we moved from 4284, brought us up to get marriage. But now we got kids in the crib at DC. Babe, pull, please, because I'm getting ready to
done.
talk.
I think we're done.
I'm getting ready to.
Because you just touched on a whole lot of.
Well,
other
these are 4
things.
episodes. These are 4 episodes, right?
Right. I mean, I thought we were doing one at a time. You gave up a lot at one.
We're in blended family partly because that.
Yeah, and 4284. You did a whole lot because there was more I wanted to say about 4284. There was more.
I want to hear more about. Yeah, there is more.
Well, you already skipped over.
No, you have to go back and fill in. That's what I keep doing. You got fill in a bit. You go forward, then I come back. That's how it's working. That's how I'm trying to flow it. Even before that, we had a moment where after the funeral, the boy got into something. Pop got into something, and I called Bros to see if they could help intervene,
Okay.
and they weren't close by. So I called her.
Yeah.
I just reached out. I showed up, even though I was on. They said I was on a program. My LB took me off the program. That's a whole nother story. And then she called me out in front of everybody and said, "Look, there's 2 more that haven't been put on the list. Hop and who was the other one?
That's number.
And the other one.
So the thing is, I'm interested to know because this is a unique, not unique, but how many people go from he's a frat brother, you lost your husband, how y'all came together? I'm quite sure people don't want to know. Literally, what made that? That's where you about to tell us.
I'm going to tell you
story, right?
Well, I'm just going to say it became for me because I don't know. He explained for himself what he talked about and how he felt his loss. And for me, my loss was very different because yes, I lost a husband, but one of the biggest emotions there were a lot of emotions that go through death, that come from death or feeling death to that degree. But I am not a big crier. I'm not a big sad sack. I'm not an overly emotional person in that manner. And I get driven to that point. And even my husband's death did not drive me to that point. Rodney's ass will drive me to that point before that did. So But one of the greatest things, after you have to understand, after being married for 25 years and getting married very young at 22, right out of university, that is, and having a baby right away. Just became a responsible adult that soon. And things got taken for granted. We had to work and bust our asses because he didn't have a job. We had a business. And as you know, Madam Producer, there is nothing different than having to bust your own balls to get it done because nobody else is going to do it. So we didn't see a lot of him. He had to work, 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 and work. And I had the opportunity to be a stay home mom to raise my three daughters. And I did cultivate business in my house. I cooked for 20 years and I made money doing it. But I remember their very distinct emotional states. But I was so in my own feelings, in my own sense of relief. And I'm going to use that word because I felt that. I felt like being married was off of me.
Elaborate a little.
Because probably a week or so before Randall and I had the conversation, he made the very statement. He said, I think you're done with me. And I sat because I sat and I thought, maybe I am, because I was about to lie to him and say no, because my insecurities were about to kick in, because it became, no, Deborah, you don't have a job. Who's going to take care? Do I want to get divorced? Yeah. How is that going to look? So I contemplated to say yes or no. And I said, yes, I am done. I'm done. And so we talked about it. We said, nobody will know we're divorced. We are not going to sell our house. We're not going to split our family. We'll just do it this way. So we went on vacation. We did our normal thing. We went to Father's Day dinner at my sister's house. And that is the last time that anybody saw him alive in his family. The last time we saw him alive was when we returned home. The last time Iana Nicole, his oldest daughter, almost didn't see him alive because they had been fighting for a long time. If she hadn't shown up in New Orleans and surprised him, she would have missed her father, and that would have devastated her life. So my biggest loss was for my daughters. I felt free. Hell, I bought me an E350 off the lot, brand new. I peeled the paper off that joint, stroked the check for it. Oh, yes, I did. Because the one thing that black man did do, as cheap as he was, he left me money. He left no, he didn't leave me money. He left a life insurance policy. And when that was the second knock at my door. This man knocked at the door. He said, "Hi, I know you don't know me, but my name is Jimmy McMillan, and I'm Randy's insurance agent." And it never occurred to me that it just never occurred to me. And he said, "Yeah, Mr. Evans left this and this and this." I was like, well, okay, well, thank you. But he left as much bills as he left money, so But that's the life of an entrepreneur. So I knew that. I was just grateful that I didn't have to struggle. I didn't have to have the plight of my children are hungry. We went through some rough times. Oh, um, some must be we went through, but mostly I wanted to remember to say one of the most important things that I wanted to say that helped cultivate our relationship was the fact that Rodney didn't have a television and I'm a TV hauler. So I thought to myself, this nigga doesn't have a TV, and I have to go down here every night and
music. I ain't had no music at the time.
No, he didn't have any, and he did not have music. He had nothing. We were ending up talking about how we started courting and what we were doing in that period of time. And as we end this segment, I wanted to say how when we were really just getting into one another, how he had no tunes and no TV. So we started reading to one another. And then the first book that we read was called The Art of Racing in the Rain by Art Stein. Garth Stein. Great book. It spoke about law and we were both going through loss. So the ties that bound us was loss, and it was the need to mend our souls. And so we were good to doing that. And so I would end my segment by saying, in the midst of the storm, I am confused yet compelled. I am cautiously committed. I am overwhelmed yet responsible. I made a pledge to the universe when in the midst of the storm. I'm oddly not vigilant in the expression of emotion. Am I overflowing? Is there a leak in my vessel? God, please catch me. Please catch the spill. Show me how I matter again in the midst of the storm.
In the new moons, like Bruce says, a lot of loss, a lot of change. There's a poem that hit me at a time when I realized the piece that I wrote at that moment when things were ending and not knowing when the next one was going to begin was Matthew 10:13. If the home is deserving, let your peace rest on it. If it is not, let your peace return to you. I needed that peace to return to me in a way in which I really didn't know where I was headed, but I knew what I wasn't doing. I knew what I wasn't. I knew there was a new moon to happen, but I didn't really know what that was going to do. I was ready for it. So I didn't know all the things that were happening.
We were gonna do a couple of forevers. Yeah, then we decided to do that, and we at all peril. I mean, we had frat brothers mad at us, thinking we were having affairs. We all know they just people don't know
What you meant?
that you manifest is
Right. So
we manifested our stuff, and this is where we are.
we came together. Right.
Some good stuff to know for people out there.
No regret,
No
no
retreat.
retreat, and no return.
And I try to play them low. Everybody got a light to shine, so let it glow. You better know the goal in mind if you make plans, but keep them to yourself. Only share them with your mans or other like-minded folks to really offer help, or else you be trying to do it all by yourself. Next thing, be persistent and eliminate fear. You got power beyond measure. The reason why you here, all it takes is a little internal.